Hello, folks. Welcome to the Crime Dawg podcast. I'm your host, Johnny FIORICA, retired detective with the Rochester, New York Police Department after serving 30 years, sitting alongside me, my trusted co-host after serving 20 plus years, also a retired detective from the Rochester Police Department, David Simpson. Folks, if you want to learn more about our bios and what we did over the course of our careers and what our extensive experiences, check them out, our bios on thecrimedawgpodcast.com, which is our website. While you're there, you could check out our cool merch store. Our bios are also linked to our Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble channels. David, welcome, my brother.
Welcome, Johnny.
We had some technical difficulties that we overcame prior to flipping a live switch, but we're here, man. We're good.
It's like wrestling a bear.
Right. David, we could not do this podcast, because of multiple vacations, commitments. You and I have other business adventures going, things like that. The New York City mayor, this got dropped on us last week with Andrew Cuomo. He's coming back out of the woods, putting his hat in the ring for New York City mayor.
It's like the zombie apocalypse. Like, you can't kill a guy. You know what I mean? Not literally, but politically, you can't kill the guy.
Listen, I got to be honest with you. So he's running for mayor. I follow this woman. She's out of Buffalo. She and I have liked each other's posts, and I reposted some of her stuff. She liked some of my stuff. She ran, I think, for county exec out there or some political position. She's awesome. Her name is Chrissy Casilio. Hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Anyway, she's on the twits. She's out of Buffalo. She gave a grocery analogy about Cuomo. She basically said, yeah, I had my store manager basically get locked up for all types of sexual harassment. Now I'm going to rehire him back as a deli manager. The analogy was unbelievable, off the charts. Obviously, everybody listening can draw the lines, being the governor now going down to mayor. But he's running. He's the former governor of New York State. He had a 10-year stint from 2011 to 2021. The whole stuff that happened during the COVID was a big scandal. Obviously, thousands and thousands of people died on his watch. Even though Trump at the time, who was the president, tried to send him all kinds of resources. He was having his daily and weekly press conferences. He thought he was Joe Stud in the media. He was the second coming of Christ. He was running for president. He was going to be our next president. He was literally like a god. And then all of a sudden, David, it just came crashing down on him.
Yep, the floor came out from under him. Well, that's what happens when you lie and mislead, and the castle's built on a deck of cards.
Yeah, it's definitely a house of cards. So, David, we talked about this off camera. Aside from the COVID deaths, which was in the thousands, and mainly focusing on elder, which was elder abuse. I mean, he literally killed thousands.
He sent them to be killed, basically.
Yeah, really. He did the exact opposite of what DeSantis did relative to our elderly community, which is totally disgusting. In 2021, one of his top aides, a girl named Melissa DeRosa, admitted in a private meeting that they had withheld nursing home deaths. They were hiding it all along. And then, lo and behold, the Dems, who claim that they're the all-righteous ones, because every time someone goes in front of Congress and wants a position, they ask about their sexual escapades. All of a sudden now, he had a bunch of sexual harassment complaints come out, David, during this time too.
Yes, he did. And I just want to go back because she used the word mislead. And when you're middle of the road and you tell the truth, that means you lied.
Yeah.
Mislead means you lied. They flat out lied to the public. Yeah. And yes, he did have a number of sexual harassment complaints that was investigated by the AG.
Right. It's kind of like when we were detectives, right? We say to the guy when we're staring at him and we know he's a killer, murderer, shooter, whatever. We're like, listen, man, I think you're being less than truthful with me right now. Instead of calling him an effing liar, well, you're being less than truthful. So yeah, you're right. Mislead was definitely a great word. Then let's morph into his Cuomo book deal, where he got a $5 million book deal that he basically wrote on duty as the governor and used all his staff. These are just some of the controversies.
Well, him writing the book is kind of like you saying you read a book. Like, he didn't write the book.
David gets mad at me because I literally audiobooks. I'm a better listener. Johnny FIORICA is a better listener.
It's not that you listen to the books. It's that you say you read the books.
Yeah. I read them.
It's like Cuomo saying he wrote the book. He didn't write the book. Everyone else wrote it for him.
Touche, wise guy. But
It's like my papers in college.
Listen, I'm a better listener than I am a reader. I fall asleep. I got ADD. Anyway, so
all fun.
So David, aside from all this stuff, your favorite governor of all time, right? What happened on his watch in 2020?
Justice reform, the coup de grace, the death blow to law and order in New York State. Justice reform. He's the godfather of justice reform. Bail reform, raise the age, and the new discovery criteria laws were all under his watch. He's the godfather of them all, and law-abiding citizens took the loss directly because of Godfather El Padrino Cuomo.
Yeah, El Padrino is right. So here's the deal. So again, I say off camera, David and I and our super producer Danny Agnew, we have a constant text thread where we go on and on and on, especially late at night when all of our families are sleeping. And basically, David, you were talking about, because January 2020 is when they dropped the bail reform, criminal justice reform, if you will. Bail reform was in the criminal justice reform. The raise the age, all that kind of stuff, all the parole changes, all that stuff was done in that January 2020 budget. And then all of a sudden that was done in the cover of darkness. And now, one interesting thing that you told me, which I want you to tell the audience, Andrew, as he's now running for New York City mayor, has doubled down.
It's unbelievable. Like, you think you would run and see how bad things are going. Like, you see the car crash, you might then think not to drive and go that route because there's a car crash, like you're going to get the road blocked. He literally sees the car crash that is justice reform and how horrific this has been. Instead of trying to distance himself from it, or maybe saying, you know what, we need to do some remolding of this, like some compromise. He literally doubled down and said, nope, it's all good. That favored the rich. This allows poor people to have a better shot. And it's so not true. Bail, as you know, is set a large in part based on your economic standing. So for an example, a multimillionaire is going to have a much higher bail to return to court based on his net worth and his income than someone that lives a very modest lifestyle, maybe is worth, $50,000, is certainly not going to have a very high bail. They're going to have a bail, but it's going to be something that they can somewhat afford that'll get them to come back to court. So really, the economics of bail is a lie. It's misleading. That's one of the things he was focusing on, is how it was fair to the economically challenged.
Yeah, and some of those other factors too with bail, in you and I have touched upon, on previous episodes. The severity of the crime, the criminal's history. What does his rap sheet say? What was in his arrest jacket, as we say, when we were on the street? So at the end of the day, there's so many factors that came into them considering bail, which pretty much with bail reform, all that stuff just washed away. And I love how Dems say, oh no, it's up to the judge. It's up to the judge. Then you talk to the judge's like, no, it's not up to me. It's up. So it's almost like the finger pointing in a Three Stooges video. It's like they point the fingers at each other, right, in opposite directions.
Right. And the thing that people need to focus on is a couple things. Before this criminal justice reform, and especially the bail reform, we didn't have all of our products locked up. Okay. That started after bail reform. That's a direct cause of bail reform. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing, we didn't have the recidivism crime that we do now. We have people that are getting locked up for a gun charge or an assault, getting right back out and committing 2-3 other felonies while out awaiting sentencing. Before, if you had made bail, and you committed another crime, bail was revoked and you were put right back in custody. Okay? That is not happening. So, these are you can't argue these facts. These facts are as plain as day, that you can see the statistics show that people are committing crimes, then getting out on bail and committing more crimes. And, people need to understand that, the general public, that violent criminals or criminals that are career criminals, so like someone that steals for a living, like that's how they support their drug habit, they're never going to stop. Okay, that's what they do. So the only way you stop them is either they they die, okay, or they get locked up. Those are the two things that stop it. Putting them back on the street and expecting the social system to then deter crime is never going to work.
Yeah, David, you had a good point because it was a great way to phrase it. We never saw the locked up razor blades at CVS. We never saw other products that we use every day locked up, and we never saw at Home Depot, Lowe's, Target. We never saw the cartloads of DeWalt tools being pushed out the front of any of our Home Depots or Lowe's superstores, until this craziness of 2020 of criminal justice reform happened. And we saw it all over the country. And this is, like I said, it's a direct result of the Andrew Cuomos, the Gavin Newsoms of the country, these crazy governors who instituted these policies that make your communities less safe. Don't let them fool you, which I know I'm not talking down to you, but don't let them kid you. Don't let them fool you. Dave and I have talked extensively about the Washington Examiner third quarter. I believe it came out in 2023. We talked about it extensively, how the FBI had finally reported in 2024 that the crime statistics were not either being reported or underreported by Democratic cities. That's a fact. Okay? Don't let the facts hurt your feelings, right, David?
Yes, sir. And one more point, we didn't have the stolen car issues that we have now, especially like in cities like Rochester, especially Rochester, New York. Those are because rage is the age. Kids know now that they're not going to face the adult criminal justice system because of raise the age. So it's a get out of jail free card, and they know that they're not going to get held. There's bail will be they're going to be released on their own recognizance. So then you see the spike in stolen cars. So what do the Democrats do? And someone that's running for a powerful position like New York City mayor, they double down on it and say, "Oh, it's fantastic." Clearly, it's not fantastic.
Clearly, it is not, David. Some great takes. Folks, basically, our episode is like, you're crazy if you vote for Andrew Cuomo as your New York City mayor. If you enjoyed this episode, please click like and subscribe on all of our media platforms. Like I said, we're on Rumble, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube. If you can't get enough of us, check us out on iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio was lucky enough to give us a weekly radio show every Saturday from noon to 1 p.m. Check us out there. If you're locally in Rochester or in upstate New York, slide that dial old school 1970s style to Wham 1180. Thank you for listening to the Crime Dawg podcast. We hope you stick with us for future episodes. But if you can't, like my brother-in-law Frankie Grassi says, who cares?